All right. This on? Very good. Thank y'all for coming out tonight, and thank you for tuning in. Anybody that's on Zoom. This is our first town hall meeting of 2021. We appreciate you coming out. Generally, the format is we kind of open it up to the floor for any questions you might have. If it gets too quiet, I'll say a few things trying to spur some conversation. When it is time to speak, we ask you to come up to the microphone if you're here in person. Just tell us who you are and you can start rolling with your questions. So if you're on Zoom, we ask you to use the raise hand feature and we'll recognize you as you raise your hand there. So with that, we'll open up the mic if anybody wants to make any questions or comments.
Yes, sir. Jeff Hood, Julian Court, Watkinsville. So, John, you had mentioned recently about phase 2 widening between Butler's Crossing and the 441 bridge. Can you update us on where that stands, when it is slated to begin?
Yeah, so the contract was awarded to ER Snell, and they should be mobilizing anytime in the next 30 to 60 days. I think there's one last permit they're waiting on from EPD on one of the crossings there. So you should see activity on that section of roadway pretty quickly. That's going to be probably a 2-year process. So similar to what you went through when Mars Hill was under construction, that's going to continue on for a couple of years on that section of roadway as well. A couple other things to mention while we're talking about DOT. Oconee Connector, interchange, Virgil Langford will be a flyover. Jimmy Daniel Road will be a full interchange. All that's been bundled together as a project by DOT. And those are slated for construction from between 2024 and 2027. So there's going to be a lot of activity in that section of the 316. So it's going to be kind of tough when they're working on different sections there as well, getting through. Also, Julian Drive will be a flyover that's scheduled for 2028. Mars Hill Road is flyover for 2027. McNutt Creek is a flyover scheduled for 2026. And we also have Dow's Mill Road and Dow's Mill Extension. They hadn't quite figured out how that's going to be configured, but there'll be possibly a flyover and an interchange at that intersection. They might be able to do something a little different. That's scheduled for 2024 and 2025. So we got a lot of activity on the 316 portion of the county, and DOT's been investing a lot of money on that section to got to get us up to improve traffic flow for us there. State Route 53, Rocky Branch and Snows Mill is scheduled for a roundabout. The engineering's underway, as well as 53 at Malcolm Bridge and Ray's Church Road. Both of those engineering are underway at this time. We're working with DOT at 53 and Union Church Road for our intersection improvement there. We're getting very close and maybe have something up, some kind of agreement for the board within 30 days, hopefully, to move forward with that. So, anyone virtually? Go ahead.
Since the local media in here, I guess I'll step in for them. So I was looking this morning on realtor.com, and in February, the average median price of a house for sale in Oconee County was $398,000. And I spoke with a realtor today at lunchtime, and he said that number is going to go to 420,000, he thinks, in March, based on what's on the books. And he thinks it may hit 450,000 in April. And this is the median price of a house in this county. and I'm not saying it's good or bad. There's a lot of ways to look at it. But any of you gentlemen just want to comment? Because I've had some friends say, you know, second, third generation, and my kids can't afford a starter home in this county. So just curious what the board thinks about these escalating home prices in the county.
Well, as you know, we don't sell for home prices. I think it's just a result of Oconee County being a great place to be. If you look, we still have close to 2,000 lots that were zoned in the early 2000s that are not built out yet. You know, construction costs are way high, with materials are much higher than they used to be. And it's just a demand. Even small homes in Watkinsville and Athens is facing the same thing. A lot of these older homes that you used to buy for 150 to 200,000 are pushing $300,000 now. So it's just demand throughout the market. I think places where it's desirable to live, you're going to continue to see those prices pushed up. Anybody else? Another project we're working, so it needs something that starts this year. We've outsourced our roadside mowing. So we have a contractor that will come in and use bush hogs to cut the grass, and that'll also give us maybe 4 additional litter pickups in addition to what we're doing with Clean and Beautiful and our partnership with the sheriff's office with doing community service workers out there. Then hog from Butler's Crossing to Racetrack, we'll be extending those travel lanes to 12 feet sometime in the next month or two, and also go do an overlay of that. So it'll be, we anticipate a lot of traffic cutting through there when Mars Hill or the Experiment Station Road widening starts up. So we're trying to get that road ready for that additional traffic. No, it didn't. So we're scheduled to award a bid also at 316 and 10 Loop at the Waffle House. That intersection where people are coming off the 10 Loop, we have approximately 3 accidents a week there, and almost 40% of them are accident injuries. So we worked with DOT and figured out what to do there. We let that, I think that'll be awarded at our April meeting. So they're going to have a continuous lane off the 10 Loop, and also we're going to take up that concrete median going up to the left turn going to Lowe's to give us additional turn lane in that area as well.
See, I have another one. Can you update us on the cut through road, Cold Springs near North Oconee High? I know now it's listed to be temporarily closed, but I know there's been some discussion about it being permanently closed. Where does that stand?
We're still looking at that. We're kind of waiting for some more of the engineering to be done at the Snows Mill, Rocky Branch 53 intersection. And we'll probably make a decision on that probably by the fall, a permanent, whether we're going to leave it closed or try to do something different. So far it seems to be working very well. I think most everybody in the area has gotten used to that. We've had 0 accidents at Cloutfelter Road since the closure. And we had some pretty serious ones first part of the year before we closed it. So we think that was the prudent thing to do at the time, and seems to be working. But we're still taking comments if people have some input on it. And that's it. Okay, go ahead from Zoom.
The audio is terrible. Can you speak more clearly, or the microphone needs to be adjusted?
Okay. Is it just too loud, or you can't understand?
We can't understand. It's like there's a buzzing sound.
A couple things in public safety that are going on. The Board of Commissioners worked with the Sheriff's Office to upgrade the E911 system. That was a $222,000 project. They've been working for the last several months on that. And so hopefully within the next 30 days, they'll be live with the new 911 system. And that puts us closer and closer to going to the next gen 911 system when it becomes available. Animal Services is under construction with an expansion and also a remodel. The board just authorized some additional funds to improve some of the areas that weren't covered by the expansion. So we hope to have I don't know if it's a ribbon cutting or somebody told me today, a leash undoing, whatever it's going to be. We hope to have that in the next 30 to 45 days so you can go down and see. It looks a lot better so far, and they're going to be in good shape for a long time to come.
So the schoolhouse at Heritage Park, I'd heard some rumblings that maybe there's some SPLOST money that could be used to make it safe for visitors. What can any of you tell us about the future of that schoolhouse?
Well, there's never been a clear vision on that. Historic societies looked at it. We're hoping that the Tourism Visitors Bureau will be able to help in that in the future. We do have SPLOST 15 money and some SPLOST 09 that we're spending now, or we're spending the 09 money now. So we've had an engineer go look at all our historic sites, the Daniel House, Covered Bridge, Eagle Tavern, and the old schoolhouse. And there's some structural issues pretty significant at the Eagle Tavern, which is what you see while the fence is up now. And they're going to have to redo that foundation while that building's in place to keep it from, to make sure it's around for future generations. There's also some structural issues with the old schoolhouse that'll be addressed with that money as well. There's some supporting beams and stuff that had to be replaced. Once we are done with those projects, we'll still have some SPLOST 15 money. We'll have to hit some of these other locations to make sure they're structurally sound. But we're kind of open to, there's been a lot of debates about what to do there, whether to open it up for events. But then to do that, you have to add bathrooms, and then you kind of take away from the historic part of it. So, and then there's air conditioning versus not having it air conditioned. So a lot of opportunities, but just there's not a clear direction on it now. So our main focus now is just making sure these things are here for future generations and structurally sound.
So obviously we have a new sheriff. And I know you guys work hand in hand, county and the sheriff's department. You mentioned the 911 system upgrade, but how has the communication and the back and forth been with our new sheriff?
It's been excellent. We all know James from a long time back, and everything's going great. We have a good line of communication. Those of y'all that just came in late, if you have any kind of question, you want to just come up to the microphone and tell us who you are, and you can.
I'm Ian Taylor. I live over on Andrew Drive. Going back to the Oconee connector, you were talking about the DOTs, now push that back, the changes to 2027, is that right?
No, it'll be a continuous construction project, either one of those three interchanges from 2024 through 2027. That is the first one that's scheduled.
Okay, so the question I have is, as I understand it now, Oconee connector belongs to DOT, or they take care of it. And there was talk of that becoming a county road again. Will that stay a DOT road for now until the construction is complete, or will it come back to the county purview and then go back to DOT, or how's that going to happen?
So the Old County Connector itself will come back to the county as a county road. There's certain areas where when a state route intersects a county road, the DOT still has purview over what happens within those so many feet from the intersection and that type of thing. So some of the areas will be a joint ownership or control situation.
Will that happen before the construction of the interchange happens there, or after the interchange happens?
Parts of the connector will be turned over to us prior to the construction.
Prior to, is there any timeline on that?
No, sir, I don't have a final. Marsh Hill itself is still under punch list. We just got communication. Hopefully the connector will turn over, and that project's been done for years. Hopefully it will turn over within the next 30 to 60 days.
Thank you.
So the General Assembly is, I guess, in the second half of their term in Atlanta. I was just curious, does the commission have anything that Marcus Wiedauer, Houston Gaines, or Bill Cowsert is working on behalf of our county? Specifically, any type of legislation or anything that you guys are having dialogue about?
There's no specific local legislation we have going on at this time. We do communicate with them throughout the year. Mark Saxon's on the policy committee for the Association of County Commissioners. And so that as we see bills come up, we just try to communicate to them how that might impact us and that type of thing. Yes.
What was that?
There was an attempt by certain groups to limit what I would call local control with building standards. And I know John and I were at the Capitol several times talking to Marcus and Houston about what our feelings were. And we didn't want it passed because we feel that's a local issue, period. And but anyway, they were helpful in working to stop that.
I have an update every Monday morning at 9 o'clock, virtual Zoom. And basically what we do is we get an update on all the bills and where they're standing at the time, what we need to oppose, or what we vote on, what we want to oppose, not as a county, but as an association. And so we're getting updates every week on that from the ACCG people that are basically, working that issue every day. And there's a lot of mandated stuff that we just oppose as a county that are going to affect counties all over the state of Georgia. So we're definitely hearing those on a weekly basis.
Is that only when the general sessions happen?
When they're in session, we're basically meeting every Monday on Zoom.
Let's see. So I know there's been a lot of chatter in the community about the proposed Publix across from Quick Trip. And I know that it went through the planning commission looked at it, and then there was a delay, and it's going back to the planning commission, I believe in April, then it'll go to you all in May. But what can you tell us or the community tonight that what do you know as far as, I guess, revisions that were made? I don't know if that's been made available to the public, or maybe it'll be when the planning commission sees it, but I think they were kind of going back to the drawing board. Maybe it had to do with traffic. But anything you can add, the most current on what you know about that project.
Yeah, there's really not a whole lot we can say. That's an active zoning case that'll be coming before, so any comments we might make would be inappropriate at this time. We'll just have to wait and see what they bring to the planning commission and then to the commission. And just like any case, we'll take a look at it and compare it to.
Rick Garrett from Malcolm Bridge Road. John, what's the status of the Bishop Farms Parkway job? Did y'all just reject all the bids on it? Is it kind of gone or still?
It's on hold right now. We got the engineering to a point where we could put the bid out. Between DOT funds and county funds, we had about $2.3 million available. And the lowest bid was over $3 million. So we had to put that on the shelf, and we'll come back to it at a later date and see if construction prices go down, or try to figure out another way. When you're crossing a creek, especially one with the flows and the big culverts you have to put in there, the price shot up pretty quickly.
So I know that the DOT is in the process of beginning the widening of 441 in Morgan County, and it will come into Oconee. So what should citizens expect to see when that hits Oconee County, I guess down there near Heritage Park, in terms of timeline? And then also, if you could comment, I guess, in the Bishop area, because it'll go back to 2 lanes in Bishop, I guess, or how will that work? Will it? Because I'd heard it was going to go around Bishop, then that's all kind of seems to be in flux.
So they're all working their way up. So I can't remember. That's so far out. I think it's the late 27, 28 before they start construction in Oconee. I'm not sure all the engineering's been completed, but there are plans right now. They will take it 4 lanes up to the city limits and then continue it out. We do have a lot of time to go back to the drawing board and try to figure out what to do in Bishop. I was involved in meetings with the mayor of Bishop, the DOT commissioner, our state reps and state senators at the time. We thought we had a plan that everybody could support. Turned out after, several months later, we found out that wasn't the case. So in the next 2 or 3 years, we'll probably all sit back down. We had, UGA's got some concerns there. DOT has some concerns, and Bishop, we'll all sit down and try to come up with a solution that gets traffic moving. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, my name is Victoria Cruz. I unmuted.
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. It said the host had muted me. Sorry. Yeah, I am in receipt of a newsletter from Judicial Watch, which had some election reporting, and they specifically said that there were problems with voter roll inflation in several counties in Georgia, and we were number 4 on the list. I just wonder, how we might be addressing that issue. It says that we are at 111% registration. That means more than the actual number of eligible voters in our county. Is that possible?
No, ma'am, and I'm not sure how they get what they're using for their population numbers. We just completed the census, so we'll have an accurate count of the number of citizens, that are number of people living in Oconee County with that, hopefully.
Good, because
We've
that
had
is,
several-
sorry, that is not a list I would like to be on.
We have huge number of open records requests, some related to that over the last 24 months. In talking to the Board of Elections, they feel like we have a very accurate voter list and very active voters in Oconee County. So I think that's more of a data issue than an actual true problem in Oconee County.
So following the election of the district attorney several weeks ago, there seems to be kind of a swelling of support in this county for us to break off from Clark County in what is the Western Judicial Circuit. And I'm not sure how you guys are involved, the commission, if at all, but any comments, would you be in support of us breaking off from Clark and either having our own DA or maybe partnering with another neighboring county? Just kind of in general, your thoughts on what appears to be something that's building momentum.
Yeah, I personally received a lot of comments and requests about that. So we've had communications on what that process would look like. So basically, the judicial council will have to do a study of our district and determine if the caseload is sufficient enough to allow for a split. And they will turn that over to the state legislature for review. So that would be the first step. And once that occurs, then we'll go to the next step, which is trying to get the legislature to do that. So that there is a lot of concern in the community about the judicial philosophy being different between Clark and Oconee County. And it'll be interesting to see what the report comes back to say as far as caseload and if anything like that would be available. So.
Well, I think everybody in the room was horrified Friday morning when we heard about the shooting at the local convenience store. So I'm just curious, it seems to me like, that couldn't happen in our backyard. This is Oconee County, the best school system in the state, all that, just a great place to live. So just kind of anybody that wants to chime in on what's been a kind of an emotional roller coaster. And I believe they buried that young man today, I think. But, what you know about our sheriff's department, the investigation, any support you guys are offering them. But is there any insight or just thoughts about something we saw happen that I didn't think we would see occur here?
We're definitely here to support the sheriff's office in their investigations. I talked with Sheriff Hale last night for about an hour. So they're putting all their resources. They brought in some help to try to figure out what's going on here. And it is especially painful when it's a family that's been in Oconee County for a little while. There's a murder case going on right now where a young man was killed not far from this location. So bad things do happen in Oconee County, and that's why we support public safety in the sheriff's office like we do with funding and partnerships. So.
I was going to say too, I sent the sheriff several texts over the weekend, all maybe Saturday night, just to let him know that I was thinking about he and his staff, because it's tragic. I mean, I've been in those shoes that he's in. You saw in the newspaper not too long ago about a baby that was murdered on the University of Georgia campus. Well, I still live without it because I never could solve it. So the sheriff knows that I think the five of us, Mark Thomas is not here, we'll do whatever we can to help assist his staff in finding the person or persons responsible for the murder of that young man. And, I think it goes to show people that bad things can happen anywhere. We're not immune to something bad. And so I think the sheriff knows if we got his back and if we can do something, to help him or his staff or the family, we want to do that.
Jeff, you're correct. That was a senseless loss of that young man's life. And you're right, it just does not feel right here in our community for something like that to happen. But it did. But one thing that comes from that was the outpouring of love and support for that family from this community. I know that there was a GoFundMe that raised 3 times more than they requested. I know that there's people who want to give to the fund for the sheriff for the reward that's made available for citizens to make donations to for this case or any future cases. So I think even in this diversity and the loss of that young man's life, Eli, it's just amazing of the outpouring of support that came from this community for that. And I think that's reflective of this community. So I go out and say thank you to all the people who have supported the sheriff's office and the family and all the people involved.
Go ahead on Zoom.
Yes, my name is Pamela Hall, and I hate to follow that topic with this question, but John, you know how I feel about the board's recent rezone decision. And I'm not going to say any more other than to ask, how can we as citizens in this county be assured that the comprehensive plan is going to be attended to and followed so that our property can be protected? It's very concerning when a rezone is allowed to happen that places an entire neighborhood at public health risk. So I'd like to hear the board's comments on how they intend to protect our residential properties when sometimes decisions seem to be made in direct conflict with that comprehensive plan.
She referring to the upcoming mercantile exchange. Okay.
I think it was all, what I can tell you is just speaking for me. I think I have always tried in zoning matters, want to do my homework and try as best as I can to follow what I think the guidelines that the people of the county have put forth in the comp plan. I take it very serious. But I think it comes down to individual decisions by 5 commissioners. We're not all the same. We're not always going to see the same issues in a particular case. And, that's just, I don't want to be so simplistic, but it is. I mean, you elect us. And we've got to make a decision, and there could be multiple opinions from 5-person board as to how they see that particular item. And nobody's going to be me. I'm not going to be John Daniel. I can tell you that there I'm in my 13th year. There have been many nights that I lost sleep over these things, trying to, make the decision that I think is in the best interest of the county. I think my colleagues do the same thing, even though we may disagree. That's the tough part. They're not all just black and white issues. Some of them are a lot more complicated. So that may or may not answer your question, but I think my history has been a strong component or a supporter of our comp plan. Is I believe it to be the case that the citizens approve. I hope that helps you.
Yeah, zoning issues are our biggest, most challenging thing, I think, as we face as commissioners. You have trying to balance the property rights of two different area constituents. I would say the comp plan, it does, like Chuck said, it comes down to the people that you elect. And at the end of the day, if you feel like we're not following the comp plan, that's really your only recourse. I do believe if you look back over the work of this group and as individuals and as a group, the comp plan is followed very closely. And I understand there's going to be differences of opinions similar to what we had on the rezone you're talking about. You know, this was a split board on what to do on that. But everybody has to vote what they think is right, and then we go down and tackle the next item. So.
This is Pamela again. I just want to clarify, I was not talking about Oconee Mercantile. Thank you for your answer.
So I did have someone ask me to pose this question, just an update on high-speed internet in the county. I believe the governor had announced a few weeks ago that there would be something that I think his office is backing, and he mentioned several counties, Morgan, but I don't recall Oconee. But what's the latest on high-speed internet in Oconee County?
So that announcement was, I think it was Middle Georgia EMC, and they were attacking those counties. There was 20 million. Wasn't that 20 million mark? In the amended budget for this current fiscal year that was put in by the governor. And so we are going to do our best to try to get a piece of that money. As we were talking about legislative actions earlier, some of the incumbents groups actually introduced legislation this session trying to prevent counties like Oconee County from getting that money. Luckily, that bill was defeated, and we'll have to come back again for another try. But so that's kind of things we have to look out for every legislative session, is the lobby groups coming in trying to protect the incumbent providers. But our partnership is moving forward. We'll have a better update on the 31st. We're having our State of the County address, so we'll be able to tell a little more about what's going on. But that's in the process. We got a great team together. They're in the engineering phase, and we're excited about that. And there's been released also, the president signed a COVID Rebuild America plan. Oconee County preliminary estimates show about $7.8 million would be available to Oconee County. What that can be spent for and what strings are maybe attached to that, we haven't seen yet. They're still working on the mechanisms to distribute the money and what the guidelines. Preliminarily, they're talking water and sewer and broadband infrastructure. So if that comes through, that'll be a great shot in the arm to move forward with broadband.
Yes, this is Victoria Cruz again. Since you mentioned COVID, I just want some clarification on how the county stands with regard to COVID restrictions or COVID state of emergency. I'm certainly aware of the governor's executive order that is extended through April. To the extent that it is, I believe it just covers state facilities. But what actually is Oconee County's stance on COVID emergency restrictions or mask mandates or whatever?
Yes, so there's no countywide mask mandate. If you do come in the courthouse, there's a judicial order. You must wear face coverings all the time in there. When you come into, like when we come in and out, we wear a mask even into this building. And so we just try to encourage folks to do the right things to keep yourself safe and keep those around you safe. So there's no mandate. We follow the governor's orders out as far as, gathering sizes. You see how the room is set up here. Today, we're well under the 50, where we've moved to virtual attendance through Zoom, which has been, our staff has done a great job getting that set up and making this thing work so that you can be at home and feel safe and ask these kind of questions. But
So are there any new retail businesses or maybe manufacturing that you can identify that we should be on the lookout that you're hearing or officially know that you can tell us that's coming to our county?
I'm not aware of anything I can tell you. So.
Costco? Keep hearing that. I mean, have for years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who knows how that's going to work out? They definitely have some interest in Oconee County.
We won't keep anything secret.
Oh, okay.
Anything that comes where it's got cash register.
Yeah.
You guys will be the first ones to know.
So in the past, there's kind of been a lot of talk about the school board and the county, maybe there being friction, but that aside, and I don't know that that's even an issue at this point. If you guys could comment on what I feel like is a spectacular, and I don't even have kids here anymore, they've graduated, but a spectacular school system, not only just from an educational standpoint, but from what they've achieved, maybe unprecedented, going back on time in August. And I don't think they've missed a day. We've got neighboring counties that they're closed or, all virtual, but just in general, what praise do you guys have for not only our school board, but the administration that's just making it happen?
Well, I think the school system is definitely a draw. You talked about home prices and that thing. Definitely be an in-person school. I think the superintendent mentioned at one of our meetings I was at was him that they seen a big influx of folks trying to come into the county because some of the surrounding counties were not having in-person school. So it's definitely important to have the kids in school. And that's what draws people, that people being like-minded and education being important and having safe community. It's what makes people want to come here. So.
Say that, I've had probably still do have differences with the school board and the administration on some issues, but I think sometimes it gets lost of the support that we have also given the school system. We had a surplus of funds. We gave them $101,000. We don't charge them for using our facilities. My granddaughter's in the first grade at Rocky Branch, and I'm very appreciative of what she's given and the fact that our kids are in school. I compliment them. So I think they're, having been school board chair, and John Daniels served with me on the school board. Mark Thomas has been on the school board. I don't know that you got a county commission that has 3 out of 5 former school board members on. But to be honest with you, we'll disagree with when we feel like we need to disagree with. But I'll also compliment them, as I do, when they deserve it. And I don't think there's anybody up here that would ever want to see any harm come to that school system. I mean, those are our kids. And I can tell you, John was with me and Mark Saxon. I think we were over in Livonia at that ACCG thing when I got insulted by the state senator. Because I simply asked, could I get a definition of what rural was, because I knew the state was going to give out money. And I was talking to ACCG representative, and we had, and I wasn't trying to cause any trouble. And then when the state senator got up from one of those counties over in the northeast Georgia area, he brought up North Oconee High School and it compared it to another high school in the state. And I took it, well, I guess Oconee County's not gonna get any broadband money. And so, my whole point was, if the state's giving out money and there's a way for Oconee County to get rural funds, because we got a lot of rural area in Oconee County. If we could get that to help our school kids, that's what we need to do. But John just mentioned about a piece of legislation that was trying to keep people like Oconee County from getting any money. And that's part of the problems we've got in Oconee County, is trying to get money that may be coming out. But we're gonna try to do that, working with Houston and Marcus and Bill Cowser. So I just say that because I think a lot of times our disagreement, it may in fact be there, but we don't do anything to try to hurt the school system. And I don't think anybody can find where we try to do that. You know, giving money and support, I mean, we do that. But we may disagree with them at times.
I'll say that I've been in the school a couple of times since all the COVID started and everything like that. I'm very pleased with the way things have gone in Oconee County when it comes to school. Because I mean, every time you turn on TV, kids are being left behind everywhere across the country because they're not in school, and it's a little different. We've been blessed to continue our school here, and that it's a blessing for our kids to be able to be in school, socializing with and not having to worry about that what's going, their heads can start wondering if they're just by themselves. And we've kept our kids active, and I'm very proud that we have done that. I've been blessed to be in the school because I mentor. I've been in and out, but I missed some times because of COVID, because I got COVID, and so I couldn't go to the school. And then I was able to go back, and I got exposed to COVID again. But it seems like every time I was in the school, things were moving pretty good when it comes to how they're dealing with COVID, and they're doing a very good job of that.
I think, Jeff, your first question was about the relationship, and I know during my campaign that was probably the number one question that I got asked when I was out campaigning about the relationship. And I think what these gentlemen have said, what I'd like to add is the school board and the school systems has had their hands full. And you see right quick how important, things are when you have something like the COVID virus and the impact it's had on our community. So these headlines that you saw about the relationship between the school board and the Board of Commissioners becomes back page news right quick. But one thing we have to remember about not only the school board, but I mean the school system, but also this county, we have some great professionals who've done a wonderful job and are dedicated. And I think that's why the school system's done so well, because not only because we have supportive parents, but I think our professional staff, whether it's the bus driver, the lunchroom person, or the school teacher or the principal, they've all, working toward to have a safe environment for our students. So I think, we all owe a big, slap on the back to all those people for what they've done. But that also applies to the staff of the county as well. Whether it's the Parks and Recreation, our sanitation, roads, whatever. I have a funny thing about my first official duty when I got sworn in, Jeff. I called in roadkill. There was a deer. That was my first official duty. Well, guess what? I am now known as the roadkill commissioner. So when they hear me calling down to the road department, they say, all right, who's killed a deer? So they're very responsive. And so we're very blessed in this community. But as far as a relationship, it's something that's like everyone's marriage. You have to work on it. And sometimes there'll be disagreements, but we'll get through that. But I appreciate you asking that question, because it is on a lot of people's minds about our relationship. Thank you.
Hey guys, my name is Adam Hammond. I live on Grove Brook Lane, and I apologize if I missed this at the beginning. I was being one of the supportive parents. I was on cheerleading and church duty tonight, so I was a couple of minutes late. But I was just wondering about the status of the county building, and now that the library is not going to be a part of that, where does that stand, and what does it mean for costs if it's not a part of the building?
So we are, hopefully we'll be posting an RFP for our architectural firm in the next couple of weeks. So that'll be the first part. We'll get an architect on staff. They'll meet with departments. We'll get a space planning done. Really, the only difference without the library is the size will be smaller. So it will be a smaller building, so the cost will definitely drop down. We were only going to get roughly $3 million from the library anyway. And that wasn't going to cover their portion of the building by any means. So there will be some cost savings there with the size. But we, my joke to Justin is I want to be in there by this time next year. Obviously that's not going to happen. So, but we're moving forward with it. It's an exciting time to get all our staff in one place, allow the community to come in and be able to transact business in one location. And it's going to be great. You got, come on up, yeah. We have the Zoom folks and they can't hear unless you're at the microphone.
Tommy Malcolm, thank y'all for doing this. I was on my way tonight and I came down through Highway 53 right off of 316, and there was an accident right at Oconee County line, and hopefully those people will be okay. But as you're probably aware, there's some tremendous projects going on 316 right now, and right there at the Highway 53. They're building a bridge right now, and I know there's a couple more probably proposed for Oconee County. Just kind of curious, and you might have already touched on some of it, but any thoughts, or is there any federal money or state monies or grants or studies for the Highway 53 corridor? Because that seems like it's going to be a tremendous place with schools and parks and rec. And I know I see on Sunday afternoons or Sunday at church, I see tons of public trucks. So I know it's useful. And then maybe just, if you haven't talked anything about roads, maybe what's anything with 441 or Highway 53, I guess, in the 78 corridor. But thank y'all for doing this.
Thank you. We did kind of touch on that a little earlier. As far as 53, there's nothing on the long-term plans that I've seen for any expansion of lanes or widening of 53. So that's very far out. The state is concentrating right now on 316. So all the interchanges through Oconee County will be worked on between now and 2028, I think is the last start of construction. So we're getting a lot of federal funding. We're working on 2 intersections with roundabouts on 53, and also at Union Church Road, we're working with Department of Transportation to get a intersection improvement there as well. So another thing we're trying to do is partner with the University of Georgia School of Engineering. We had our public works director go over there last week, or go via Zoom, and present kind of our corridor from Union Church Road down to Publix, and hopefully one of them will take that as a senior project and look at it and come up with some, ideas on what can happen to improve the traffic patterns there.
John, you mentioned Union Church Road and Highway 53 adjacent to Oconee County High School and some improvements at that intersection. And at a recent meeting, I remember you saying that we're not too far away from the traffic count needed to justify traffic light. So what's the latest or how close are we? Do you foresee a, excuse me, a traffic light at that intersection?
Yeah, I think we'll have some improvement. There's still, the study's been done. We're kind of asking some questions about it. So hopefully within, it's not going to happen on this month, but the next work session, hopefully we can have some kind of proposal to the Board of Commissioners on a joint project with Department of Transportation on that. Anyone? Very good. We'll go ahead and give you another minute if anybody wants to, gets brave in the next minute. Anything else, Jeff? Anything else? Not if you want to close. No, that's good. I mean, I think it keeps the conversation.
I just wait for Adam and Tommy to show up. And leave back here.
Again, thank you very much. We do this every quarter. We hope that you'll come back and don't be afraid to come up to the microphone or shoot us an email or ask a question. This is our attempt to get the input and conversations going with and get the citizens engaged. And be sure to tell your friends about it, and hopefully we can pack the room out next time. Anything else for anybody? With that, we're adjourned. Thank you very much.